Elle and Mitch, just taking this opportunity to tell you what's going through my mind, my mindset, my head. Maybe the head of a crazy person. A couple of things I want to talk to you about. One is the Futurist Forum, which I'm creating, and it's only going to have a few people on it, and I'm inviting both you, Mitch, and Elle, because you're doing heaps of things in the real world, and you've been doing it for a long time, both of you. You're really making a difference, and you're definitely not lazy. Well, the patriots are so lazy. I wanted to talk to you about how you are great influencers as well. Sometimes you think people are not taking any notice because they don't click like, and they don't click or forward or share, depending on what you're using at the time. And I get as many messages probably as you guys, and a lot of the messages are saying, we like what you're saying, we follow you, we watch the videos, we read the post, we actually read the post, but we don't click like and we don't click share because, and there's always a because, but the two main reasons I've come across is that they've got work friends on their Facebook and other social media, and their code of conduct in the workplace does not allow for them to put those types of things on, and some work for the government, they can't put political stuff on anyway, or they're going to lose their job. The other reason comes up a lot is that in the early days they banged on a lot about political Islam and politics and that, and families have threatened to disown them and to their partners. They're all sick of all the politics, etc., etc. So even though you mightn't see a like or whatever, you're still influencing those people. They're reading what you're saying, the videos you make. So it's important that we are effective in what we do post. Now, the Futurist Forum, I got really pissed off when I started reading about the Great Reset and the Economic Forum. The first thing that pissed me off, I didn't like the idea of the elite and the government's taking control of everything we do. They will just own us in the end, and you've got to be a billionaire to be part of it. If you're not, and you've still got to pay for your government naturally, but over $700,000 each year you have to pay to be part of the Economic Forum. And what else got me was it says you'll be happy. I've never seen a government really wanting me to be happy, so that put me on notice straight away. So I decided that we didn't want an elitist forum, we wanted a forum for our future to decide what we will focus on, and I've called it the Futurist Forum. It won't be on Facebook or anything like that, it'll be on our own site, the social media site that we've got. But I'm inviting both of you to it. A good example of the forum, we will only be looking at 6 major objectives, focuses for the year, and maybe 2 years or 3 or 4 years. But an example is the halal. In our social bubble, everyone knows what halal is, and we're only really in a social media bubble, small bubbles within the social media, but outside our bubble, people just don't know what halal is, and they don't even care about it because they just don't know what it is. Anyway, the politicians, and talking to our strategists, has said that halal is here to stay. They're never going to get rid of halal, so we may as well not waste our time and resources on trying to get rid of halal. The businesses like it, the government likes it, and the Muslims love it. However, I have been told that a lot of the politicians would be in favour of pushing in Parliament for labelling, make it illegal to sell a halal product in Australia that's not labelled halal. This is something that we can do fairly easy and get other groups to do as well. So, and naturally we've got to find a way in the real world to get the community to understand what halal is and that it needs to be labelled. But that is one of our focuses. Another focus will be on Australia Day. But I want to talk, so that survey, there's only a limited number of people, one of the first things we're going to do is develop a survey. I was told that politicians don't care about surveys. However, I've been told that they do care if it's aimed at stopping them getting votes. So what we need to do is the wording of the survey, and I'll just give you an example off my head. Would you vote for a politician that sells the land, infrastructure, etc., to an overseas country? Yes or no? Now, because they want to stay in government, well, the thing is, they've only got two objectives, a lot of the politicians that I've come across. One is to look after themselves, and one is to make sure they stay in government. So all our questions will be towards forcing them to realise that people have these opinions and are willing to not vote for someone. That hurts them, they hate that, not vote. I wanted it online and out to 10,000 people minimum, and what we're going to do is then we need to make sure that we have, just like the halal, a plan and a strategy to make it happen with milestones, etc. If we don't have a plan, then we plan to fail, so it's going to be important. So I'm asking that you will be part of that Futuristic Forum, or not futuristic, Futurist Forum. Let's get to COVID-19 vaccine. We can't really do much about that. People tell me that they're going to, in our bubble, a lot of the people are against it. Outside the bubble, everyone I talk to is for it. Haven't talked to a person that's not for the vaccine. We've got people who want to get back on the cruise ships. We want people who want to international travel, and now they tell us international travel may not come back to 2022. They want to see their grandchildren. They want to work in the government or health. They will take the vaccine. In the USA, 40% of the people are against the vaccine. In Australia, there's at least 80% they reckon in favour of the vaccine. Completely different to what you'd expect in our social media bubble. With the vaccine, I've been told that if you want to work for the government or be a contractor to the government, then you will have it. If you want to go into government offices, they're looking at saying that you must have it. If health, private and public, you must have it. So Morrison says it's not mandatory. However, there's a lot of places that kind of is mandatory, that they will force people. I saw a plumber, he's advertising that his people will all be vaccinated and looking at it as a marketing thing because they're going into people's houses and things like that. Transport, I've been told by Transport that if you want to travel on a bus interstate, or you want to travel on a train interstate, and you want to fly interstate, then you'll have to have the vaccine. and naturally international travel with the airlines, they're forcing it interstate and overseas. Australia Day, another thing that the Futurist Forum should focus on and develop a proper strategy for. Harry, Lee and Trevor, they've been doing a really good job with the convoys. Lee Henderson asked me to make some t-shirts, not for Australia Day, but to promote Australia Day, because it's getting lost in the promotion. In our bubble, Australia Day, our social media bubble, Patriots, is very important. Outside, it's not as important to a lot of people. We've got to let them know that's something else they're going to lose. For example, in Victoria, I could not believe that Invasion Day, they can have their events, and Chinese New Year, but no Australia Day. Chinese New Year, I enjoy it. I don't see any problem, but I don't see that it should get anything over the Australia Day. One of our big jobs and the focus on the Futurist Society Forum will look at is how we destroy the Labor Party. From within the social bubble, a lot of people don't like Labor. However, I've found a lot of people attacking me because of the shirts that I've got ditched in. In Victoria, people abuse me and everything privately. They send messages and that because they just love Labor and they love Daniel Andrews. But in our social bubble, there's a lot of people don't. But when you go to the Love Andrews sites, there's hundreds of thousands of them. There's two worlds. There's social media site world. My neighbour doesn't even have internet. But so what we've got to understand, we've got to work out ways of getting to the people. Queensland got a bit of a surprise. The social media bubble said that Labor would get thrown by Pauline would get all these seats and that. However, in the real world, which we don't really talk to very often, we should be, those hidden and forgotten people, they all voted Labor. You know, they didn't vote for Pauline. However, people I talk to, both within and outside the social media bubble, they don't know about the Fabian Society and that Labor is slowly taking us towards socialism. And that has got to be our focus of creating our Fabian Society awareness to decimate. They're no different to China, what the Chinese want to do with us. So that's something we've got to work on, is destroying Labor. Communist Party, we've got to remember that the Communist Party is different to the Chinese people. You should still be able to go in and have your Chinese meals and you know, all that side of it. It's not the people, it's the party. Food. You can choose not to buy the Chinese food, and I'm suggesting that's where we attack. We don't buy any Chinese food. Honey comes from China through New Zealand, etc. I go next door and get my honey. I get my eggs from next door too. We need to go to farmers markets and things like that and get our honey. If people stop buying Chinese honey in stores, they won't be selling it. However, outside, like Mars bars, Chinese, make your own. Here we try to grow as much food, and we've only been here since June, but next year we'll be growing heaps more. But we're eating a lot of vegetables. If we go into town, which is 15 minutes away, 15 kilometres, we might have meat there at the Indian or something, but here we're not really eating meat, we eat our vegetables. There's so many good meals like that. It's difficult for anything else. Medication, over 80%, I understand, of medication in the United States comes from China, and they've got a lot of patents on it as well. and some comes from Brazil and other countries, but the major other supplier of medication to the United States comes from India, and 95% of that, the ingredients, come from China. So I'm a diabetic. I'm not going to stop taking my medication. A lot of the patriots, not Mitch, are getting, they're in their 60s and up. So medication is very important. I've got 4 lawnmowers here, an American Yardman, ride-on, a Victor ride-on electric, and a Rover petrol. All the parts for them, even if it's from the States, it's still from China. So it's good if you can, if there is a choice to choose if it's something that's manufactured in Australia, but it's very difficult to find Australian electrical products, Australian parts for our motorcycles and cars. But food, I don't see it that anyone should be eating any Chinese food. Our food's so much better. This child abuse, both you, Deefa, and both of you and Deefa and Robin had the International Day of Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. Now, I hate the UN, however, we've got to use those days to help us get our cause. And 6th of February every year. I found most people don't know what female genital mutilation is. Like I wear these shirts, but I'll take that off as soon as I finish this video, or when I go into town it's exactly the same. I wear the shirt in town and come back and change. We had on our female genital mutilation at Bunnings. The next day I had to go back, I always forget something, and a young lass from Bunnings come over and said to me, "What's female genital mutilation? Is that about piercing?" And I explained it all to her, and she didn't realise that there was such a thing for a start, but that it was happening in Australia, and that school holidays, they were sending girls over to have their genitals mutilated. She was horrified by that. She also knew about child brides, but she didn't think that was happening in Australia. She did know about trafficking of children for sex and that, and she had heard that happens in Australia. Anyway, the reason she was talking to me, not just the shirt, but the day before when they saw it, they were in their lunchroom, and not one person knew what female genital mutilation was. And so in our bubble, we know things, and as I said about halal, most people I talk to don't know about halal outside of our bubble. Our social media bubble, after a while we start to believe that is how the world thinks, but it's not necessary. It's like Trump. I haven't met one person out of my social media bubble that isn't happy that Biden won. They just hate Trump. That's everyone outside of my media, a social media bubble. Haven't met one person that I've talked to. Electric support hubs have always been for, but what I'm hoping, we have an online one that each of our futurists has their own for their own local area. The electorate is where we need to be fighting. It's our backyard. We should know every patriot in our backyard. We should be out there. We should be able to tell people what's happening in our backyard, and we need forums and that. So I'm hoping each of you, if you do decide to become part of the Futurist Forum, to have your own Facebook page, that when you see something that's not right with, or a decision made by your minister, that will go there, and we've got to work out another way of getting it out into the media. not to the media, out into the electorate. Facebook, Instagram versus other social media sites. It's been suggested to me to have your own, or stick with Facebook and Instagram, as it kind of safeguards you, because they're pretty harsh on defamation and inciting hate. So if you go to one of these other ones, you get really upset, you can end up in court and lose a lot of money through lawyers, or if you defame someone, they can take you to court, because there's just no control. And that's why the governments are pushing what's their names, Apple and Google and other app companies, not to supply apps to those people that are not the company's not willing to control what's on their social media site when it comes to defamation and inciting hate. A few years ago I was asked to by one of the Facebook groups to move across to another platform because they lost 36,000 people. A lot of them were from the States, I noticed. Facebook just deleted overnight because the admin person had done another number of times, one of their admins, put hate information on. I had a look at the platform they wanted me to look at, and it was owned by the Russians. The next one I looked at was owned by a marketing company that their core business was collecting people's information and sending it to customers. And then the third one was Chinese owned. For example, Gab, I wouldn't go near Gab because there's so much extremist information on there that people will take it. They say it's who you hang out with, and that has been a really dangerous thing, is Gab. I'm surprised it's still up as well, because it's mainly right-winged. You can push porn around there, etc., etc. We need for our people in Parliament. Ellie, you've been there, and so has Elizabeth. We need to look at that again. You were one of the earlier adoptees of Pauline One Nation. We need to highlight ministers' deficiencies to the electorate, policy deficiencies to the electorate, and party deficiencies to the electorate. So important. Great Reset. I'm not going to say a lot about that. My recommendation is there's a lot of good YouTube videos, and Sky News has been pushing it a lot to tell you what's going to happen and what's the effects. The Great Reset, Amazon has the book. You can get it as an e-book to go in your on your tablet and that, or Kindle. It's less than $7. Well worth reading. It's a real concern to me if the government wants me to be happy, and the idea is you'll own nothing, not even your car, you'll rent everything, and you'll be happy. I think it's just a way of controlling owning. Next, they'll have a stamp on the back of your hand, like the nightclubs, to say, that they do own you, that you've got these certain things. You've had the jab, you've sold your property, your rent. I've got that people under the cross preppers. I'm not sure if you guys are on it, but the idea of that was, I wanted to. It's not a real prepper site where you go underground and things like that. It's about self-reliance and self-sufficiency. It's important that we look at growing more and being more reliant on ourselves than the government. One of the things, we watched a video a few years ago at work, a couple of years ago now, and it was about self-reliant, and it was talking about the first thing was you should always have $600 cash in your safe in case things go to shit. And those things that could go to shit is electricity, or the banks can't, they've crashed or whatever. The other thing was that you have lawnmower petrol in your garage. You should have petrol for your motor vehicles. If in the old days you used to be able to pump the motor vehicle bowsers, but you can't anymore. So if you're going to fill up tomorrow and the the petrol ran out, or they weren't working because electricity, you're stuffed. However, if you've got your own drum of fuel in your back shed, not near your house or in your house, just with like your lawnmower, then at least you've got a backup. We need backups to our backups. So I would encourage you to go to that site. It shows you how easy it is. Jennifer and I watch different things in the morning to motivate us, and I've had a few people tell me they like that. I put on some tiny homes on there occasionally, and they like that, and a few have said they're thinking of paying $40,000 for a tiny house and put it in on a bush land to go hunting and just get away from the traffic and the people. But there's so many alternatives. You know Elena from Cairns. Everything Elena does is in uppercase, and that's kind of her brand. It works so well. And but when she sends me a message, it's always in proper case. But Elena put a meme up, and it said, "Global non-compliance." Global non-compliance. I like that. Maybe I should become global non-compliant. So I read what it was about. Barter for goods, shop local-owned stores, avoid large corporate stores, grow as much food as possible, buy used items, recycle, upcycle, avoid fast food shops, get to know your neighbour. Yeah, I think we all should become global non-compliant. Anyway, I hope I haven't bored you, but and I'm hoping you'll join the Futurist Forum so we can decide what to focus on. There's so much to focus on out there, but we're not being effective by trying to focus on everything. So thanks again, and hope to hear from you soon.